particular set of skills for dealing with men like you. I will find you, and I will kill you.
It's definitely not Liam Neeson's voice, but I'm also not a man. Welcome back to 31 Days of Halloween. So today we're going to be talking about another foreign film. This one is from Korea. It's called I Saw the Devil. It's a 2010 movie. I watched this movie with subtitles because it's just I can't watch foreign language films in anything but the original language with subtitles, because sometimes the dubbing is just so horrendous that you're almost better off just not understanding and just watching in the foreign language without subtitles, because the dubbing is so bad, and just figure it out from the action that's happening. But thankfully I was able to watch this movie with subtitles, and it is definitely worth it. So this movie has a 2-hour and 22-minute runtime, which, by the way, isn't even the full movie, because if you get the DVD of it and you look in the extras, there's an extra 40 minutes worth of deleted footage. I didn't watch all of it because I was happy with what I had seen, and sometimes the deleted footage is just such a slog to get through because some of it's out of context and some of it really was deleted for a very good reason. So it's 2 hours and 22 minutes long, but it really doesn't feel like that. The movie starts out like punching you in the face, and then it doesn't stop from there. It is very tense. It is very fast paced. There were times when I was like gripping the edge of my seat and yelling at the television screen because of what was happening, either with the main character or the villain or what other people were doing. And then at the same time that it is both incredibly gory and violent, it's also really kind of sad and emotional. And I'm probably not going to say these names correctly, but I'm going to try. So the story follows Soo-hyun, whose wife was murdered by Kyung-chul, who's a serial killer. And we basically see two different sides to Soo-hyun. We see like the grieving fiance, and then the murderous, revenge-driven guy who wants to play this cat and mouse game, where he is trying to get revenge against Kyung-chul. And every time Soo-hyun's on the screen, you just feel like his rage and his sadness and his desperation to get justice done for his fiance, or his version of justice, really. Because revenge can look very different for different people. And I did the Liam Neeson bit in the beginning because that's almost what it felt like a little bit. I also got some like law-abiding citizen vibes, which is one of my other favorite movies, which I don't think is technically a horror. I think it's more like an action thriller. And it's also got a very different concept, but the basics are the same, where like someone's kind of taking revenge against somebody, except in law-abiding citizen there's more of like a lesson or a purpose to it, as opposed to just pure revenge, which is what Soo-hyun is doing in this story. So everything in this movie is beautifully shot, and it's all charged with emotion, and I think that's what helps to keep even though it's such a long runtime, I think that's part of what helps to keep this movie from feeling overly long. There's definitely parts that could have been taken out, as you can see from the extra 40 minutes of deleted scenes. But I don't think that what was left, even though stuff could have been taken out or shortened, actually I don't think I would have taken out anything from the final product. Maybe shortening some scenes, chase scenes or whatever, I don't know, could have made it a shorter runtime. but I don't think it would have affected the overall movie. The movie still would have been, it is still just as good, or is still great the way that it is now. And I don't think taking any of those scenes or shortening them at all would have made the movie better. Um, in some ways, it may have made it worse, because what is in that 2 hours and 22 minutes is kind of essential to watching the transformation of Suhyun and Kyung Chul, and what their relationship is with each other, and all of the people around them too. Because as much as we're focused on our hero, or our anti-hero, and I say that because of what he does through the movie, and how he's basically taking justice into his own hands, and then our villain is developed over the entirety of the movie. um, and then, even though we're so focused on these two, there are other characters that are important. Not obviously not as much, but they also kind of up the stakes for our two main characters as well, and what they're going to do with each other, and in regards to these other people that are in their lives. The movie, like a good horror movie should, kind of makes you start to question, like, where your loyalties lie, and like whether or not you should be feeling the way that you do. There's specifically a scene that I'm thinking about later on in the movie where you're kind of laughing at what's happening, and you're kind of like, I'm not sure if I should really be laughing at this. Like, I've been watching people get obliterated over the past hour and a half or 2 hours or so, and now we have this kind of scene here where it's almost the tonal shift. If you hadn't been like so invested in the movie up until this point, would almost be a little weird, but the story somehow makes it work once you kind of readjust and like shift into it. Because I know when they first started up with this scene, I'm sitting there and I'm like, what in the world is going on? Who are these people? Why is this happening like this? And then it very quickly goes back into the earlier tones of desperation and revenge. So I Saw the Devil does really, really well in ratings. It's basically 80s across the board. And when I say 80s in IMDb, I mean it's getting like an 8.1 or an 8.3, which counts as being in the 80s. I gave it an 8. My friend gave it an 8. And I think it's just because the movie, for its length, maintains your interest and your investment in the characters the entire time. There's really not any point in the movie that I can think of where I was like, can he just kill this guy already? Well, other than when I was like, stop playing the cat and mouse game and just kill him so that, he stops doing bad things every time you release him. But it wasn't like, kill him so the movie can be over. Like, I didn't necessarily want the movie to be over, because I was enjoying the back and forth between the two characters, and how the stakes kept getting upped every time they interacted with each other, or they interacted with other people in their lives. So I really recommend seeing this movie. Take the 2.5 hours out of your day, spend some time with it. I don't recommend breaking it up, because I feel like you're going to lose that tenseness. So set the time aside and sit down with it. Definitely watch it with the subtitles. So in the Korean, in the original Korean with subtitles. The dubbing wasn't too great. I kind of tested it out to see how it was, and as usual, like I said in the beginning, the dubbing was not the best. So definitely watch it with subtitles and the original language. So I am going to be going into the spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, time to leave and maybe go watch it soon. But before you do, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for stopping by. And for the rest of you who are still hanging around, we have spoilers. Oopsie. So what I really liked about this movie is that, you know, you're with Soo-hyun up until the end, even though sometimes you question whether or not you should be, because there's times when he releases Kyung-chul and he goes and murders more people, or like he sexually assaults someone, and Soo-hyun kind of comes in the middle of that and stops it, but like he's still damaging and hurting people, and I think he winds up murdering Soo-hyun's fiance's father and her sister. The sister's definitely dead. I don't think the father is. Because they carried him out to an ambulance. So, you know, usually when you have like a revenge sort of film, there isn't that much damage that the protagonist allows to happen, and yet in this one, Soo-hyun really allows that kind of stuff to happen. And I don't think he necessarily intends for it to happen or he's hoping that it happens. It's just because he's so invested in himself that he can't separate out like the bad that he's doing. So when the movie's titled I Saw the Devil, it's like, are you seeing the devil in Kyung-chul? Or are you now seeing the devil in Soo-hyun? Which maybe is a representation of the fact that we all have, to a certain extent, a darkness inside of us, and it just takes that one little moment for that to come out of us. And then maybe we may all have the potential to become rampaging vigilantes. Soo-hyun obviously has a little bit of an advantage there because he was a special forces guy in Korea, so there's a couple of scenes where he's like jumping around buildings and doing this amazing hand-to-hand combat and stuff that a regular person may not have the ability to do. But I always like these ideas where it's like just one little thing can make you snap, and you may just go off the rails the way Soo-hyun did. I also thought it was kind of neat how at the end, Soo-hyun basically makes Kyung-chul the own device to his death, because he puts a ring of cloth in Kyung-chul's mouth, and he basically has to try and hold on to that while people are trying to open a door. His family members are trying to open the door to get in to see him, and he's like, no, don't open the door, don't open the door. And of course they open the door anyway because they're worried about him. And the guillotine that he had, and which he used to kill his victims, then kills Kyung-chul. So it was nice how it all comes back around full circle. And then you just kind of sit with the movie after that. Like, how do you feel about Soo-hyun? Like, do you think what he did was reasonable? Or do you think he took it too far? Because he did hurt a lot of people along the way to get justice for himself. He said it was justice for his wife and for the other murdered women. Actually, I don't think the other murdered women even came into it. I think it was just for his wife. But is she really going to benefit from the fact that this guy's now dead? She's not. And her family can't even benefit from it because one of them is dead. And the other one's in the hospital and may wind up being dead. So it really makes you think. Korean films tend to be really good for that. You either have really bright, happy Korean films, or you have really dark, depressing, scary ones. There's kind of no in-between for them. But it works. I like both of them. So I recommend going to see this. If you sat through the spoilers, go see it anyway if you haven't. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you guys next time. Wow, what was I saying? I've completely lost my train of thought. Yikes.